Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cross-Cultural Sex and Gender. My name is Gil Hurt. I will be your professor for this semester, and I'd like to welcome you to what I think is one of the most interesting courses in the university. This course has a long history at San Francisco State. It has been taught by a variety of people, and the last couple of years I have taught it. And last year, I was assisted by a very talented young anthropologist. Her name is Melinda Cordasco, and she will be serving as your teaching assistant this year. I want to apologize for the delay in your being able to see this video, but I think we have gotten around the glitch that we had. And as you will be seeing, there will be a series of short videos for each lecture each week. So to avoid confusion, we will label these by week and by number. This will serve as lecture number 1, part 1. And you'll be able to view subsequent parts of this lecture this week. Now, let me say a couple of things about the course and then go into the content. Cross-Cultural Sex and Gender is both an anthropology course, Anthropology 569, and a sexuality course, Sexuality 567. The course is broadly concerned with human sexuality. What do we mean by that? Everybody thinks they know what sex is, but when it comes to the study of sexuality, we really mean the holistic understanding of all of the parts that make this a complex, rich area of investigation. That includes evolution, culture, behavior, emotional expression, the meanings of sexual response, and of course all of the social relations that surround sexuality and gender. Historically, in this area, the individual was the focus of study, the unit of study, and in fields such as biological psychology or evolutionary psychology, the individual is still the unit of investigation. But what this means is that the context and also the culture were largely left out of understanding the influences on sexual expression. Lower animals and lower mammals have sexual responses and relationships, of course. And when you get into the higher primates, such as bonobo chimpanzees, we have now had strong evidence of the influence of what we would call culture in bonobos, chimpanzees, which, for example, utilizes sexual response in ways that support group life. So in this course, you are going to have two large aims. The first one of which is to teach you about sexual literacy through a whole variety of content that will enable you to be more effective in understanding and coping with your own sexuality. Sexual literacy is the knowledge and skill sets that you need to support positive sexual health and well-being. Sexually literate people, for example, are able to say no and yes when they want to, and also to provide them with the resources they need in order to have better sexual relationships. But the second aim of the course is specific to anthropology, and that is teaching you the importance of culture and specifically sexual culture and the influence of how sexuality is structured by culture and specifically how individual behavior is influenced by cultural things. So when we get into these areas, we are really in the area of combining individual and culture to understand the effects upon how humans live. Excuse me. You can see these influences brought together in the slide for the PowerPoint today, which is called the sexual triangle, which is from your book. And by the way, this is your book, and you will be reading most of this book, but not all of it, as per the syllabus. Now, the sexual triangle comes from the Hurt and Poland textbook in chapter 1, and it is 3 points of a triangle: species, culture, and individual. And the notion of the triangle is that each person is like all other members of our species in our shared traits. For example, the ability to have language, the ability to understand and use symbols, the ability to form families and participate in culture. And each person is like some other people who are part of one culture. For example, German culture, French culture, Russian culture, New Guinea culture. One culture, one language, one religion, with its own particular meanings and its own particular sexual culture, which structures the group and how the group defines its boundaries. And finally, each person is like no one else because each of us is a unique sexual being. We have unique genes and DNA, a unique brain, and to some extent, unique sexual histories, desires, expressions. In other words, we have our own sexual individuality. And you'll be hearing more about how that sexuality, that individual sexuality, structures our well-being. You will be hearing me talk in the course on the individual level about sexual well-being a good deal in the course. Sexual well-being is a term that's widely used now in sexuality study and is drawn from a broader investigation in psychology, human development, biology, and other fields to discuss how well-being is the positive knowledge and skills needed to support self-esteem and good relationships. And so when it comes to the whole area of well-being, one of the aims of our course will be for you to understand that with humans, culture enables us to have certain skills, such as the ability to communicate, and certain knowledge, such as provided by our culture and also our unique sexual experience, which comes together in influencing the choices we make and the behaviors that we express, leading to our own sexuality. And all of these areas are important in our thinking about how does sexual literacy work and how does it express itself through the range of different cultures around the world. In this course, then, we're going to be working on a variety of different kinds of materials, including 2 very important ethnographic case studies, one on the Sambia people of Papua New Guinea, whom I have studied over many, many years, and whose culture has radically changed in the last 2 decades. We will also be reading about another culture, the Trobriand Islands, which is off the coast of Papua New Guinea and is very, very different from the Sambia. One of them represents what we might consider a sex-negative culture and the other a sex-positive culture. And as the course goes along, we will also be studying American culture to understand how we in the United States have constructed our sexual culture with its very unusual and in some ways weird history, and how that sexual culture is in some ways positive and in some ways negative. So, in short, we'll be looking at a great range of different kinds of cultures in this course.